So then the other thing I went and looked at, we're next with this weights and measures module release, we're releasing the county annual and the county monthly reports for DMS.
Okay.
And so I took a look at kind of how your time card is set up with respect to what time is going to be included on those DMS reports. And really on the DMS, everything's pretty straightforward because most of the time comes from your inspection forms.
Yes.
Right. But there are professional support hours for weights and measures, which are things like, attending the National Weights and Measures Conference, or, it might be weights and measures training. So there's direct program time and there's indirect time. And then that time can either be professional time or clerical time, or support time, I guess is what it's called.
Okay.
So what I was looking for are these categories here. And it looks like you have them set up in a way that will work just fine. So for your clerical or support time, you have indirect, which is set up as a straight entry.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have professional support indirect, which is also set up as straight entry. So your professional and your clerical staff can enter time, and the system can pull that time out and spread it across the Ag and Weights and Measures programs based on, the direct time percentages.
Okay. So like when they're doing, let's say, device billing, annual device billing, and they spend a day and a half doing just that, just folding the papers, putting them in envelopes and all of that stuff, that will be a direct. Will that go to direct? Because that simple tracking, that means it goes to a report, right?
Yep. So that'll go under clerical direct, and they'll need to pick weights and measures as the program, and then no sub-program, because it's not necessarily, devices or quality control.
No.
Or
but it will still go direct to a direct cost to the program.
Right. It'll go directly to the weights and measures program, but it won't go directly to any given sub-program.
No, that's fine. Okay.
Right. So let me just pull up our let's go to the weights and measures annual. So in the annual report, you've got, it's in the monthly. In the monthly report, we have just this bucket for total support hours.
Okay.
And are
go ahead, Zach.
Sorry. Are just so I get my terms right, the support hours, are we calling that indirect? Those are equivalent?
Yes, it's, so just to be totally clear, any time that's entered on a weights and measures inspection form will go into the total program direct hours by program. And then any time that's entered in clerical direct that's assigned to weights and measures, or professional support direct that's assigned to weights and measures.
Yep. And John, can you show the new field that I think it's in here, that we added in the details for how you actually designate that? Which one did you, sorry, I didn't see, which one did you open?
I'm in professional support direct.
All right, I guess that, oh, you're in production. I guess we'll have to show it in test, so.
Sorry, my bad.
Yep,
okay,
that was my bad too. I wasn't paying attention, so.
Yep, Anastasia, this is something new that we'll need to go through and configure with you. So in our professional support direct, right, one of the things we need to figure out is it ag or is it weights and measures? And then if it's weights and measures, is it going to a specific program?
Okay.
So we have added, when you do simple tracking, you've always had, do you want to track the program? Yes. Do you want to track the subprogram? Yes. But now you can also say, do you also want to require a device type?
Okay.
Okay. So right now your professional support direct, you've set up to only be for agriculture.
Mm-hmm.
And you have a choice because we also need a support category for weights and measures.
Okay.
Right? So your choice is to create another professional support and call one of them ag professional support and the other one weights and measures professional support.
Okay.
The reason why I kind of like that is because it's clearer to the person who's entering their time on the time card that they're entering an ag row versus a weights and measures row. The other alternative is you can add weights and measures to this existing category, which means every time someone enters time, they'll have to pick whether they're entering ag time or weights and measures time.
Perfect. That's exactly that. That'll be good.
Okay, so this is test. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. So I'm going to add weights and measures here. And now that I've got weights and measures in my assigned programs, and my subprogram is required, meaning I have to identify whether it's weighing devices, measuring devices, petroleum, weighmaster, etc.
Okay.
Then I can say, do we want to track device type? And my choices are no, I don't want to track it, meaning I'm not even going to put it on the form. Or is it optional? Or is it going to be required? But it says required for W&M program. Obviously, it'll only be required if I've picked weights and measures.
Okay.
So I'm going to say yes. For program professional support, I want to know which device type it is. And then this second field here, it says how's this category going to be calculated? Is it going to go directly, is it going to be counted as direct program direct hours or support hours? Right? And what that means is on the CMR, we can either add hours here or we can add hours here.
Okay.
We can also add them per device type if they're direct hours
Right.
on page 2. But yeah.
Yep. So that's here.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so your choices here are support or direct. And for professional support, direct, obviously, I think the best choice would be direct, meaning if I'm doing some office time, maybe doing outreach on counter scales, right? Putting together a presentation to make on counter scales. I can bill that time to professional support direct. I can specify weights and measures. I can specify weighing devices as a subprogram, and I can specify counter scales as a device type. And those hours, since they're identified as direct, will show up on the CAR under counter scales right here.
Okay. That would be really useful because we're having to do a lot of outreach and educational stuff that's not necessarily, it doesn't end up going to a device being sealed, but we have to do it for like cannabis and industrial hemp and stuff like that. And we spend sometimes hours talking to them and educating them on weighmaster laws or what kind of devices they can have and stuff like that. So that's where our biologists would put that time, correct?
Exactly, yep.
Okay.
If I choose the other choice, if I choose support, then any hours that are recorded on this timesheet row for weights and measures are going to go to the support hours. So they won't show up in here.
Mm-hmm.
They'll show up on page 1 in the support hours box.
Typically, that's where our clerical puts their stuff, though, right?
Exactly.
Not necessarily, or not the inspectors.
Yep. So this is the recommended setup for your professional support direct hours for weights and measures. I'll go to
Ooh,
save
you
that.
guys should make a whole template on recommended ways. If you put
Um,
it this recommended way, it shows up here so that
That's what I'm
people like
spending
me don't have
all,
to think.
I'm going to spend all weekend putting that exact document together, and we can have a call Monday or Tuesday next week to compare what you have to that recommended template.
Awesome.
Okay, so professional support indirect, that's obviously indirect, so that's going to go through the allocation mechanism. And then for clerical direct, again, we want to do some specification on here for the weights and measures program. Okay, so for clerical direct time, this is all going to go to support, right?
Mm-hmm.
Clerical time doesn't go into these categories.
No.
So since it's all going to go in the support box, we don't need to know the device type. And we want to say that it's going to be specified as support time.
Yep.
Okay. So that's it. And then again, clerical indirect is going to go through allocation just like the professional indirect time.
Perfect.
So I'm just going to hop over the timesheet. I'm going to go down to our professional support direct. And you'll see on the form now, if I choose weights and measures, I have to choose a subprogram, and then I have to choose a device type.
Okay.
And then I can put in my hours. And now that those 3 hours are going to appear on my CMR on page 2, right here under counter scales.
Perfect.
Okay.
Yep, and that would be in addition to any time entered for specific inspections, you know,
Yep.
like
Yeah,
you said, first sealing.
No,
Oh, sorry.
I agree. For example, we had a biologist out there for 3 hours arguing with a company and with the state, trying to decide if a scale was a commercial scale or if it wasn't a non-commercial scale, and if it needed to be sealed or not. So after we sat there for 3 hours, it did not need to be sealed. So then it's like, okay, those hours, they're professional direct rather than the secretaries putting it in there as indirect.
Yep.
Or direct.
Mm-hmm. And we're also going to be bringing remarks into those entry screens as well, because I have had it brought up where there's some people doing some, I guess, administrative oversight that would potentially be considered support, but they want to be able to explain, you know, what those hours were. So we're gonna, in this screen, you'll be able to put some remarks in as well. We've had that request, so just mentioning that.
Okay, so that was the first item on my list. And I just have one last follow-up question. And Anastasia, you may or may not know the answer to this. I may need to bring this to CDFA. When we do clerical indirect or professional indirect, I know that there's, within the AFS, there's a percentage allocation process for indirect time. But in the Santa Clara County daily system, we only allocated indirect time for ag. And my question is, if CalCATS keeps track of indirect time without specifying whether it's ag or weights and measures, can I take, let's say we've got 600 hours of indirect clerical time, and out of the total professional direct labor hours you have in Calusa for the year, you're 80% ag and 20% weights and measures. Can I take 20% of those indirect hours and report them on the CAR as indirect weights and measures support time?
Well, I have my CAR here. And let's see. Notes. I would think that you would, because you can't do that indirect time all to ag, right? All above the line, because weights and measures is below the line. So you would be taking indirect time that should be reported with weights and measures, and you're throwing it above the line with ag. But I believe you should, I mean, the right way to do it, I mean, it would help us if you put it above the line, but if you stick it below the line, I think that's where, because otherwise you're not, all those indirect hours are not going with the hours. 80% of your hours is above the line. That means 80% of your indirect hours should be above the line also, right? It makes sense that the other 20 should be below.
Yep, that's my exact logic and why I'm proposing to do it that way. I just wanted to make sure that that wasn't in conflict with anything you had heard or had been instructed.
No, and I'm going through our stuff now, annual financial report. I'm just seeing if there's any big bullet points on the instructions, the January 2019 instructions on the CAR. I'm not seeing anything that, I'm sure you guys have gone through this.
Yes.
And yeah, I'm not seeing anything that jumps out at me or is highlighted, so I would think that's how you do it. Is that how most counties do it? I don't know.
We don't have most counties to compare to yet.
Yeah.
You're one of the front runners, so. Okay, well, obviously, once I've got this, sometime early next week, I'm going to be putting together a document to send to CDFA that says this is how we are calculating and allocating everything, and then give them a chance to correct us if they think we're wrong.
Okay.
Okay, excellent. So that's it as far as time card and weights and measures go. Then I've got, as far as allocating everything on the annual financial summary, we're totally good to go there.
Nice.
The only thing that you will see that we don't have here yet, but you'll see it very shortly, is on the AFS, there's an other programs category.
Other programs categories, yes. In other programs, we put our weights and measures, our cannabis programs, and then anything else that your department runs, like animal control and airport, stupid stuff like that.
So right now, I don't have a way for you to specify that a category should go to your AFS other programs.
Okay.
Right, and to specify another program name for it, because we can put in animal control, but you may want to have 2 or 3 different timesheet categories that'll sum up to animal control.
Okay.
So you're going to see that appear, and once we have that on there, I'll just connect with you and make sure that you can put in the other program names, and you'll see them mapped to the AFS.
Okay.
Other than that, the AFS is totally good to go.
Don't we already have other programs on our timesheets here? Because airport's on there already, right?
Well, you have, yes. So if I want to track, actually, I don't know if airport.
I think we added airport last time, like migrant housing's on there, air pollution, and I know it was in one of those selections.
So if I go to Clerical Direct and I look at programs, well, that's test. Let me switch over to production.
No, I added it somewhere.
Yeah, I'm sure you added it as one of the programs. Let's go to Clerical Direct. Yeah, Airport, Migrant Farm Housing.
Okay, so yes. They're there, but you know what? How do I have them show up on my timesheet?
So right now, your Clerical Direct, I'm looking at the timesheet category definitions.
Yeah.
And in your Clerical Direct, if I look at the configuration for it, you've restricted it to just these programs.
Oh, I need to fix that.
So you can just take these and add them over there.
Okay, so anybody who's going to be putting time, okay, and this is where I get confused. So this is in clerical. So I need to add it to clerical, but I also need to add it to admin, right? Is there another timesheet category that's called admin?
No, so admin is actually one of your timesheet templates.
Oh,
So right now, if you're not entering time, you've got all of your Kramer, you've got your, crop statistics, everything else that, I assume would go under airport and animal shelter and migrant housing and so forth is either going to go in clerical or professional. Would that be correct?
yeah, so it'll be the commissioner, the secretaries, all the secretaries,
Mm-hmm.
and the assistant commissioner.
So
those people are going to have access to those programs. So
right.
How do I connect that to them?
Well, there's two ways we can go about doing this, and I do have a recommendation, but you obviously have a choice. You can either include those other programs in your existing clerical and professional direct time.
Okay.
So, that means if I'm going to switch back to tests so I can add hours here. That means if I go to professional direct support and I've worked on migrant farm housing, I would choose migrant farm housing here.
Okay.
Okay, so that's one way to do it. The reason I'm not recommending that, and I'm going to recommend a different approach, is because it may not be obvious to me when I'm looking at this time card where I should put airport time.
Yeah.
It's kind of buried in here. Professional support direct, I'm kind of used to that for ag and weights and measures, but for airport, that doesn't sound like the right place to put it.
Okay.
So the other alternative would be to create a row called airport.
Yeah, that's what I would like to do.
Yep. And so then for that airport configuration, so let me add a new one. Let's call it airport. We would make that simple tracking, and the program would be required, but the only program that you would list would be airport.
Oh, okay. Why would you not just do simple tracking, or the other one, the straight tracking, and they just put it in as airport? Will it not do the same?
So you can also do straight tracking, but there's one more drop down you need here, which will say this maps to the AFS other program name airport.
Okay.
Because otherwise, we would just be guessing based on the name of the category, which, is just not ideal.
Okay, so, but if you do the simple tracking, it does that already?
Yes, so when we're putting together the AFS, we're going to take every, let's go back to our programs here. Every program that's not ag or weights and measures or PUE, and we're going to include it in other programs.
Got it. So you're already set up, so that's why. I just want to understand why you choose one and not the other.
Yep.
Okay.
Now, for me, it's the easiest way for our staff to enter time is on straight entry, because then they can just type in the number of hours in the time card. They don't have to pop up a form or anything else. For airport and migrant farm housing and all that, you don't need to track miles or remarks or anything.
Nope.
So it would be a little bit simpler for the staff to enter it on a straight entry row. And so that would be my recommendation. You do it as a straight entry row and then use the new, which you don't see here yet, but the new drop down that says AFS other program, and then you would choose airport from there.
Okay.
Yeah, I wonder, would it, John, would it make sense to add in here as well just like a program and sub-program drop down that just any hours entered would be associated with that program or sub-program?
No, I hear what you're saying, but
Mhm.
that I think it'd be better just to map straight time to an AFS other program, and then that way we can provide a drop down, a lookup table management screen to name your other programs, and it makes it easy to have, like, if you want to split um, animal shelter time to a couple of different
Sure.
categories, you can do that straight on the time card, and then they both map to the animal shelter other program on the AFS.
Sure. That makes sense.